I don't know if you've noticed, but these days ads about football are really boring. Oh look, it's Neymar doing skills in a bus queue. Oh look, it's a bunch of folks doing winner stays on in a park. It's all about the training, being on the pitch, scoring a goal in the match and all that sort of thing, and blah blah blah, bored. In fact, most sports adverts for Nike or Adidas or whatever are very boring indeed. You only ever see sports folk just doing what they usually get paid tons of money to do. However, this wasn't always the case. Back in the early noughties, sports ads were much more, how you say, high concept. Here's David Beckham as a medieval warrior. Here's a big football fighting tournament with Eric Cantona as the master of ceremonies. Here's David Beckham doing a Wild West quick draw against Iker Casillas. That sort of thing. Tons of money just lavished upon all of them. I mean, this is just what people spent their money on before the credit crunch, okay? If you've got David Beckham, you might as well put him on a horse too. I mean, nowadays you'd be lucky to get Ian frickin' Dowie on a horse. I miss these adverts like you wouldn't believe, and the total absence of them is one reason why I don't watch much television anymore. Anyway, one of the best remembered adverts of this kind is simply called The Mission, featuring some elite secret agent footballers on a crack secret mission against some evil secret organisation led by Kendo Nagasaki. You may well recognise the indomitable Edgar Davids, of course, along with Japanese legend Hidetoshi Nakata, the almighty Luis Figo, the evergreen Francesco Totti, who as ever is the only person featured in this advert still playing as I record this, and Louis van Gaal manning the helicopter that ultimately takes a mere 2 of these players to safety as the big secret enemy HQ blows the hell up. Rest in peace to our fallen ball-kicking heroes. Also by Nike. One thought just quickly. Did Edgar Davids at any point during the filming of this advert, right when he was in his pomp, get an inkling that he might just end up becoming the player manager of Barnet FC? Anyway, The Mission was a very popular and celebrated advert, the sort that wins awards at big marketing ceremonies like the Clios and what have you. It's not the greatest football ad of all time, that title belongs to the 1998 ad where the Brazilian team play football through an airport, but it is on the shortlist. And anyway, as good as that airport ad is there a PS1 video game based on it? Well, no. Is there a PS1 video game based on The Mission? Yes. The Mission game goes to great lengths to expand the story and lore of this advert. The back of the box speaks of the prized Gio Merlin football that has been stolen by the evil forces of ball kicking, the terrible ninjas. And that's actually their name. Think of all the brilliantly named evil organisations we've had in gaming. Neo-Zed, Mad Gear, Black Warriors, Lumen Sages, the Lully Lule Low. Ninjas. I don't know, I like it. No frills, certainly no bullshit. Gio Merlin is a much more stupid name, mind, so obviously it won't surprise you to learn that the Gio Merlin ball was very real indeed, used in professional leagues and made by Nike. The box also promises a unique game mix of combat, adventure, and football. I mean, okay, I can think of few predecessors to this. I mean, there's Soccer Kid, there's Marco's Magic Football, and there's that game based on the Hurricanes, but they're all very cartoony and very childlike indeed. This is the PlayStation we're talking about. It's got to be edgier and more mature, surely. Oh, and don't worry, the Mission game still features the real footballers that were in the advert. Davids, of course, Figo, Cannavaro, Guardiola, Thuram, Henry, they're here. And then there's the studios behind it. The game's published by Microids, a French label that's been around for a long time, since the mid-80s, without ever being amongst the best publishers around or anything. A solid second division side, best known for adventure games like Siberia 1 and 2. Oh, and Shogo Mobile Armor Division. As for the developers, EMG, well, I can only find records for 2 other games by them, both of which are way more obscure than this. They appear to be Lond. Now, for most reviewers, a game like this would inspire trepidation, a likely correct expectation of shit that's going to require plenty of compound swear words. But I'm not most reviewers. For me, a PlayStation licensed game based on an advert that's about footballers taking on ninjas gives me that Ron Swanson about to eat a bacon-wrapped turkey look. This is the sort of game that I function on, that gives me life, and gives me opportunities to gab on and on about meaningless things like near 20-year-old bits of advertising television and footballs with hideously stupid names. Given the choice between this and a good game, look, I know where my heart is, okay? And well, I think it's time already for these super footballers to strut their stuff, walk that walk, and just do their thing. Folks, I give you the mission. Well, yes, so as can be seen, the game is very bad indeed. It is certainly a unique idea, but my lord, it does not work. The whole system is based around kicking footballs at things, which you would think wouldn't be too difficult. Trouble is, the targeting is so inaccurate. Here's a good example in the very first area of the game. First off, you have to get the ball itself by moving through lasers, which is in itself a haphazard exercise because the movement, jumping and sliding are phenomenally inaccurate. You're best off just randomly jumping from the left until you somehow get it. Following this, you have 60 seconds to strike a power box near the ceiling. And I can't do it. Any logical way to do it seems to not work, and the tutorial provides zero clues. If it wasn't for the password system, I'm not sure I'd be able to get past this first area of the game. The manual does provide instructions for a high shot, and Lord knows I've tried it many times, and I think I've executed it once. It still didn't come close. Fortunately, like I said, there are passwords, so here's some more. At its core, the game's a beat 'em up, you and a partner against a bunch of ninjas. You have a couple of attacks. The first is the regular shot, which takes so long to power up to any meaningful level that by the time you're there, the ninja will have attacked you. The second is a slide tackle, which you only have when you're off the ball. The ball does randomly appear back at your feet after a few seconds, which usually means by the time you're lined up for a slide tackle, you have the ball again and do a pathetic lob that, as far as I can see, is completely worthless. The only attack that seems to have much worth at all, unless there's a long distance between you and the enemy, is to pass to your partner and hold shoot for a first time hit. If your partner doesn't miss the ball completely, he should strike the enemy. The ball bounces about all over the place at all times, and the camera usually follows it, which once again is a pain in the arse when dealing with almost anything in the game. In fact, the camera is just a pain in the arse in general. It's one of the worst I've seen for this type of game. So that's the majority of the exercise. You constantly take on the exact same ninjas, just like the ones in the advert, and beat them in the same way. And these ninjas aren't even close to being the worst enemy in the game. These are. What is it? Well, it's a switch. Like the power box earlier, you target it, you try to shoot, and it's nowhere near. I mean, Jesus, it's not even that far off the ground. Anyway, this repeats until you're completely bored and you turn the game off. Our heroes are just flummoxed by switches, they really are. They shoot at it, they pass at it, they lob at it, but delicate 1-2s, floated balls and curlers get them nowhere. They simply do not have the required level of techers. You know, the level that would perhaps make them think, you know what, why don't we just use our fucking hands? But this is the sad truth about footballers. They are bred as babies to be perfect at football and to never use their arms for anything. Louis van Gaal, the mission's coach and writer of the e-book Applying Spartan Training to a Flatback 4, would take each baby at the age of 3 months old and personally tear their arms off, believing that without the ability to use them, their legs would grow stronger. At the age of 5, these children were thrown into the wild with naught but a football, which they would have to use to kill a wolf and utilise its carcass for food and pelt for protection against the winter snows. Those who survived are the footballers you see today. Just need to look at the mission. I mean, it's obvious they can't use them, innit? And also there are the obvious things. The grey, utterly featureless areas that almost feel like a parody of PS1 graphics. This is supposed to be some sort of sprawling ninja HQ, isn't it? And yet there's nothing except the same statue over and over again, with the same grey textured walls. Sure as hell haven't done a lot to spruce up the place. As for sound, may as well not be there. I think there's about 2 songs in the game and they're virtually identical. Enemies basically differ in what they fire from their hands and are otherwise the same model. The whole thing just has that real knocked up in a lunch break feel about it. Like there was absolutely no opportunity to deviate from anything that's in the advert. Surely no one who was on the game wanted it to be this bland, at least I hope not. I was even hoping for badly acted cutscenes between Louis and his football A-team, but alas, there are no cutscenes of any sort. All you get is the footballers celebrating and doing a nay-nay at the end of each section of the game. As far as I can tell, it's also another very short game. There's only a couple of passwords after all. Needless to say, the game's level of drudgery is what I would have expected. The mission is a phenomenally poor game, and I cannot think of any good reason for it to exist. The only positive thing I can really say about it is the unique concept. As ridiculous as it obviously is, it would probably work given some refinement. But there's none of that here. What there is a very cheap game knocked out in the bare minimum of time, based off of a Nike advert. You can find positive words for almost any game on the internet if you look hard enough, usually on my channel, but I can find virtually no one with anything good to say about the mission. The closest I can find is a 5 out of 10 review from some obscure French website, and holy hell is that score a stretch. And yet, because it's a game based off of a freaking football advert that features a mix of combat, adventure and football, it obviously gets my highest recommendation. PS1 Obscura at its finest, the sort of game that absolutely no one makes anymore, and nor should they make. A game so baffling in execution that it really ought to be played, studied and, well, just observed in its natural habitat. Bye for now. Thanks so much for watching this video. I would like to thank the following people: Adam Schaefer, Andrew Dalton, Andy Cat, Ardy Sawley, Chris Wilkins, Conformist, Dustin Cooper, Gary Pinkett, George Newton, Guafan Blackpool, Ian Roberts, James Idd, James Loveridge, Jason Goy, Jason Leach, Jason Stevens, Johan Eriksson, John Scott, Keith Barlow, Elle O'Brien, Lee Norris, ManagerSim.net, Mark Heslop, Mark Johnston, Mark Whittington, Martin Pataki, Nanette McCrone, Olaf Albeen, Phil Taprog, Piotr Margel, Rachel Maxwell, Romeo, Sean Zoltek, Zeph Robinson, Simon Gulliver, Taylor Armand, Tiago Pereira dos Santos Silva, Twisted Squote, Vishar D, and Zach Roach.